Okay, in this video, talk about measuring something called the money supply. Okay, so measuring our money supply, and when we're trying to measure the money supply, so these are standard measures that countries use, and we're trying to measure our money supply. We're going to focus on the part of money supply the role of money as a medium of exchange. Okay, so we're focusing on that medium of exchange part of the money supply. So we're going to do two definitions. So we're going to do one that's called M1. This is the most narrow, right? This is narrow, and this one is extremely liquid. So these are very liquid. So these are going to be things that are just used for making purchases and really don't have any other role. So this is going to be most focused on this medium of exchange. So the first one we have is currency. Well, it has to be in circulation. So we have currency in circulation. So when I say in circulation, I mean it's not inside of a bank or the Federal Reserve. It's in the economy. It's in somebody's house. It's in a business, but it's not in a bank. Okay, so currency in circulation. The second one is checking deposits. So all the value of all the checking accounts in the economy. And then the third one is traveler's checks. Now we'll see in a second. I'll show you the data in a second. Traveler's checks are tiny. So almost no one uses these anymore. In fact, it'd be kind of interesting to hear you say if any of you have ever used them, and if so, when. I don't think I've traveled a lot, and I don't think I've used traveler's checks for at least 15 years. Okay, so anyways, technology has made traveler's checks kind of obsolete, as you can go to ATMs pretty much anywhere in the world. But these other two are still really important. So people do keep cash, and they also do have money in their checking accounts. So that's there too. Okay, so there's a second definition called M2. So M2 is going to be less narrow, and some account types are dual use. Okay, so going back to the first one. So M1 is very narrow, only used for purchasing. In fact, back in the old days, before technology, M1 would have been the main place. Before technology had changed so much in the banking system, M1 would have been the main place you hold all your money that you're going to spend, because you either need it to be in cash or you need to be in a checking account, which is easily accessible. When you could write checks at a lot of places, this money then is accessible to you basically 24/7 for spending. M2 used to be pretty restricted, but we'll see that at least part of it was pretty restricted, but we'll see that that's changing rapidly. So M2 includes M1. So everything you see up here, okay, so that's one key thing not to forget. M2 includes M1, but it also includes savings accounts. Okay, so a savings account is kind of a dual use. You can make purchases directly from your savings account, and you can use this as purchasing power. But it also, some people keep their money in checking for spending and savings for savings. So saving has two purposes. We also have small time deposits. So this would be like, put your money in a time deposit where it needs to stay in there for 3 months. But still, this is kind of available. You actually can take it out of there. It has some restrictions. And then the final one is individual money market accounts. So money market accounts, for the purposes here, we can think of it as, well, it's another type of savings account. The way it pays interest is a little different, but it's the same basic idea. So these last three, while you can make purchases using the money that's in there, they also have this alternative purpose, which is to save money. And so because they have kind of a dual use, this is a much less narrow definition of money supply. Before I go on to the data, I can just kind of show you a way to look at it. And there's another video that goes a little more into this. But so we can think of, well, this is our M1, and then this is our M2. Okay, so the M1 is contained within M2, something key to remember. All right, so let's go ahead and now look at the data. Let's first look at M1. So cash in circulation and checking accounts. They're also known as demand deposits. Those are the big important parts of this. And as people are technology is changing, the checking account part is becoming a little bigger because lots of forms of payment, people need to have money in their checking account. So that's changing a little bit. People are holding a little less cash. Part of the reason the cash is so big, actually, if you divide this by the U.S. population, you'll find it's a pretty big number. The cash per person is pretty big. Two parts. One is the underground economy tended at least to function in cash, and so part of this is in the underground economy. The other is there's actually a lot of U.S. cash held in other countries, and so at least for the purposes of counting here, it's going to be counted as cash in circulation because it's not in a U.S. bank or in the Central Reserve, but it is somewhere. Travel checks is tiny, only 2.9 billion, right? So it's like 1% of the total. So in 2015, this is data is from your textbook, the total for M1 was about $3 trillion. So quite a lot, actually. Okay, so now we go to M2. So M2, we got M1 already. And then M2 is mostly savings accounts. So for your purposes, you can think of M2 as being M1 plus savings accounts plus some other stuff that's kind of like savings accounts. That's plenty because these other portions are pretty small and not super important. One thing you can notice, well, M2 is almost 12 trillion, so this is much bigger. So actually, once we include savings accounts, then it becomes much bigger, right? So it's several times bigger. So anyways, this is the way money is counted. So money is not just cash. In fact, if you put cash into a bank and it goes into the reserves, it's no longer money, right? The part that is counted as money is the deposit, meaning your balance that you have in your account. But actually, the physical cash is no longer counted as money unless it's in circulation. So this definition of money is a little different than you've thought of before, probably. I would suggest you watch the other video, although it is optional. I would suggest you watch it to get a little deeper insight.